I learned early that love was quieter than fear, so I became quiet too. Not because I was shy, not because I had nothing to say, but because every sound I made felt like it cost too much. In that house, attention was unpredictable. Sometimes it warned you, sometimes it burned. So I learned the safest place was somewhere in between. Seen just enough to belong and invisible enough to survive. I became good at disappearing while still being in that room. I could sit very still, shrink my needs down to the size of a breath, swallow my questions before they became sound. I could feel everything and show almost nothing. Adults called it maturity. They said I was so easy, such a good child. They didn't know that goodness was my camouflage. What they called calm was actually alertness. What they called independence was actually abandonment with manners. No one ever taught me how to take up space. They only taught me what happens when you take too much of it. So I learned to survive by formatting myself into something easy to keep around. I learned that being loved meant being low maintenance, that being safe meant being quiet, that being chosen meant not asking to be chosen at all. I became the child who disappears first, so no one has to leave. And it worked for a while, because survival is very convincing when you're young. It feels like intelligence, like wisdom. Often it feels like strength. No one tells you that survival will follow you into adulthood and move into places where it no longer belongs. So I grew up, and the quiet came with me. It followed me into relationships, into friendships, into every room where I waited for permission I no longer needed. I became the adult who waits to be noticed before speaking. The adult who apologizes for needs before they are even expressed. The adult who stays silent in disappointment because silence once meant safety. I learned how to be overlooked so well that even love sometimes walks past me without seeing I'm standing right there. People think quiet is peace, but quiet can also be the sound of a child holding their breath for decades. Because when you grow up unseen, you don't suddenly become visible just because you age. You just become an older version of someone who still hopes to be looked for. And sometimes that hope is exhausting. Sometimes you don't know whether you are calm or just bracing. Sometimes you don't know whether you are independent or simply used to being alone in rooms full of people. Sometimes you don't know whether you are humble or whether your needs were trained out of you before they learned how to speak. I wasn't quiet because I had nothing inside. I was quiet because I had too much and no safe place to put it. So I built myself a world inside of me, a private language of feeling, a soft place no one could interrupt. And that inner world kept me alive. It also kept me hidden. And now as an adult, I'm still learning how to be seen without disappearing. Still learning that love doesn't always arrive as a test. still learning that I no longer need to earn my place by taking up none at all. The quiet child inside me still watches every room and measures every word and prepares to shrink. But now I know why. I became invisible because it was the only way to stay safe with the people who were supposed to see me. It wasn't weakness. It was an intelligence shaped by fear. And maybe that's the hardest truth. You didn't become quiet because you were broken. You became quiet because you were protecting something tender in a world that didn't know how to touch it. You survived by disappearing.